There's an interesting question that often comes up with retro game collectors, or just game collectors in general. Well, it's probably all collectors, not just game collectors. But because I tend to read and consume media regarding collecting video games, the question often comes up of why collect games. And so I have kind of given this question some thought over the years, because I didn't actually start like seriously collecting games until, when did I get my copy of Deus Ex? I think that was the first one I got, and that was like 2013 or somewhere around then. It was actually close to the time I started the YouTube channel, funnily enough. And I think when I first started collecting, it was more about being interested in the format of the big box PC game, which is what I collected to begin with. I liked the format, and it brought me a degree of nostalgia. It was like a little serotonin hit every time I found a new big box PC game. And back then they were at decent prices, so I could pick up something for like a tenner, decent quality, and that'd be that. Nowadays it's much harder to do so, partly because the shelf is so full, and partly because big box PC games ain't as cheap as they used to be, and games in general aren't. But I've expanded the collection over the years and collected for other things as well. Like, I think the PS2 is probably the second biggest platform in my collection. And it's changed. It's changed over the years why I collect. It's become less. I mean, the physical objects still fascinate me, and I still like to have physical copies of games that I really, really like. To the extent that I got that copy of Metal Slug 6 yesterday. I don't necessarily need to have a copy of it. I can play it whenever I like. I've got a copy of the ISO on my PS2. Well, maybe I'll explain how that works in a future episode. But I've got a copy of the ISO. I can play it on my PS2. No problem. I don't need the disc to do that. The fact that I enjoy the game enough to own the disc, well, I think that's worth having. You know what I mean? I enjoy the game enough that I want a physical copy of it because I appreciate it. And there's then many other games. My copy of Gunvari and Time Crisis Collection, that's a really nice item to have. My various copies of Crash Bandicoot that I've got. Don't necessarily need them, but I like to have them. And all these PC games, I don't need them, but I like to have them because I love the physical items, and it's part of the experience for me. It's a huge part of the experience to have the item and to get the box and put the disc into your computer and install it. Stuff like that. And afterwards I might get a copy of the disc image, and so I don't have to keep taking the disc out and putting it back in, or I might even get an OCD patch or something. Same with the PlayStation. I don't actually use the disc. I just put the ISO on my network server and then play it off there. Some systems I do need the physical media for, like the PC Engine. So that's a necessity. If I wanted to play PC Engine games, I'd have to get a PC Engine game to play it. But anyway, the collection, the main reason for me at the moment is because I'm interested in preserving the items, and I'm interested in the history of the items. Video games to me are more than just the game. The game is obviously the most important part, because that's the bit that you play and that's the bit that you're interacting with and experiencing. But there are a lot of levels to it, and once again it comes back to the experience, and it comes back to how the game is presented. Things like I own CRTs, so I can play games I can see the games as they were originally intended to be seen when you play them. And I own original hardware, so I can use the controllers as they were intended, or I can experience things like sprite flicker and slow down, all the imperfections that you don't get with emulation. You emulate a game, you can emulate an N64 game, you can play Legend of Zelda at 1080p in 60 frames. And that's not how it doesn't feel right. I used to play, there's many YouTube videos early on in the channel where I played Crash Bandicoot on a PlayStation emulator that upscaled it to whatever your screen resolution was, and it would do widescreen hacks and stuff like that. And I look back at those and think, ye gods, that looks dreadful. PlayStation games aren't meant to be upscaled like that. N64 games aren't meant to be upscaled like that. Even many early PC games, they can go up to high resolutions, but they look a bit naff doing so. So, part of it is to have the authentic experience of playing, say, Legend of Zelda on the N64. There's certain parts of that slow down, and so, to me, that's part of the game. And there's arguments against that. I mean, I'm sure you might be listening to this and thinking, why the balls would you want slowdown? Why would you want that? Why would you need that in your life? And I guess, again, it comes back to the history of the game and how it was presented at the time. That is what I'm in it for. It's a bit difficult to quantify because the game is ultimately the most important bit, and I'm not against emulation. I don't begrudge people who emulate. It's just not the full picture for me. And, well, the physical games are part of that slightly wonky experience that it was presented as at the time. So yeah, that's kind of the reason I collect games, if that made any sense whatsoever. And, you know, I enjoy doing it. I like having a stock of physical media because, I don't know, if I had an empty game room that just didn't have any games in it, I don't think it'd be very inspiring. It'd be like having a library that had no books in it, you know? And just a Kobo or something on a desk. Wouldn't be quite the same. So anyway, yes, that is my collection story. Maybe I should make that into a full proper video and explore why other people collect, because I think it's a fascinating topic in and of itself, and it's an interesting part of video game history, which itself is about video game history. It is really, truly an interesting thing. So maybe I should do that and explore why I collect and explore why other people collect, and maybe get some other people to weigh in and say I collect because, or I don't collect because. Maybe I can pull that together. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.